In my opinion, this special edition of Mars Anomalies should make history, folks. We're looking at similarities between ruins and artifacts are found on Mars with ruins and artifacts found here on Earth. Although the objects I'll be showing you might differ in scale and size, I want you to note the similarity in geometry and design and the shapes of these objects. Also, it looks like everything on the surface of Mars was destroyed in the distant past through natural catastrophes. Maybe some even speculate a war or some wars in the distant past. Also, I'm approaching this with a healthy dose of speculation, and science used to be based on healthy speculation. Without speculation, I believe we can't learn and advance. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but let's have a look at the evidence and you decide. So to start off with, we're looking at this giant pyramid that I found close to the InSight lander and rover Curiosity. It's about 2.5 by 2.5 kilometers at the base. Looks like it was covered in water in the distant past, and it's covered in this sediment. Also, you can see water erosion around the edge, and it looks like there used to be a capstone on the apex. And there we have the Great Pyramid of Giza, same sort of proportions and shape. Also, the capstone here is missing. And strangely enough, there is something here on the side very similar to what we have over here. Coincidence maybe, but that is quite strange. Even looks like the pyramid of the sun with a ramp with stairs here on the side. It's covered in sediment, so it's difficult to make out any detail. Then we're looking at the ankh. What I speculate is an ankh carving over there, and let's take a closer look. We can see the circular part and then the cross section seems to be attached right there. And there's a symbol of an ankh that we find in Egypt. Then we're looking at what I speculate is an obelisk. Check out the uniformity in the width on this one side, and then the point, triangular point there to the top. Also, it seems to have a flat side on the right. And there we're looking at obelisks as we find in Egypt. And then this rather weird object right there, folks. Don't know what it is. Sure is an interesting anomaly. It's got this rounded design to it, and then this part that looks like a scoop in front, and then this rectangular part that seems to be protruding out of an opening or a gap between the two. Very interesting little spherical object there on the top. And I compare it to the scarab beetle sculptures that we find in Egypt and this one in the British Museum. Check out the rounded part at the back, the rectangular shape of the head or the nose, and then the rounded part in the front. Up next, we're looking at these megalithic blocks that we find close to the pyramid. Check out the similarity in size and shape. These still seem to be packed together. And there's even a triangular part on the top with a protrusion on the one side. We're looking at those blocks. Very interesting. This one's got what looks like a carved in area there, and on that side it's almost like a column. Everything seems to be destroyed and fallen over in the past, and there's another block same size as those featured previously right next to it, and I compare those to the inner core limestone blocks, part of the external veneer of the Hawara pyramid. Then we're looking at the doorway I found in a rover curiosity photograph on Sol 3466. Let's take a closer look at that. It looks like a ramp. We've got a rectangular opening and then a bracing part like a lintel over the top. Very smooth, flat surface as well. Check out the 90-degree angle to the inner part. And I compare it to the KV4 tomb in the Valley of the Kings. So I got this sloping part on either side, the opening with the bracing part at the top. Then we're looking at this strange block with what looks like a symbol of an eye on the one side. Then the huge eye shape could be a boat, who knows, folks. But check out the part over there on the top that looks like an eyebrow, a pupil there in the center. These look like eyelids, eyelashes. So could this be an ancient ship with oars sticking over the edge, or is this a sculpture of an eye? And I compare it to the ancient Egyptian sky god symbol. Then this item, folks, it's also huge, approximately 1.2 kilometers per side at the base. Also a very strange circular depression on the top, and it also seems to have been covered in water in the distant past, full of sediment, lots of wind and water erosion. And I compare it to the Pyramid of the Sun. Check this out, folks. We've got the larger part on the one side, and then in the middle of this side what looks like this staircase or ramp. And then we get to these huge megalithic blocks, and I'm only showing you a select few examples. You know that I've found so many already. So let's have a look at that block up close. Check out the straight edges and right angles to it, uniformity in the width, and it seems to be partially covered in sand. Then we have this one in Azimov. Also note the straight edges, parallel sides, right angles to it, flat surfaces. It's even got a carved out piece here on the right, and I compare it to those megaliths that we find in Baalbek, Lebanon. The width is very similar to the pregnant women of the south. And we're looking at this strange oddity. It's got like a little lever part sticking out of it. Looks like a block. This part eroded away or it broke off. And I'll compare it to the block over there that we find in Bolivia. Straight edge, and then the little part sticking off the side. Then we get to these blocks with knobs or protrusions on them. Check the two smaller objects or protrusions in the center of that block, the uniform width as well. Then we get two on this item. Check that out. Similar in size and shape. Right there in the center. We're looking at the two smaller objects on that one. Check that out. Similar in size and shape. Right there in the center. And I'll compare it to the blocks that we find in Peru with the two protrusions on each block. So the twos are repeated on objects on Mars as well. We get to these blocks, very similar in size and shape, and each of them has this protrusion or knob in its center, and they're still arranged in a row next to one another. And I'll compare it to the megalithic blocks that we find in Greece at a site in Delphi. Check out the protrusions in the centers of each of those blocks. So that's another common design element. We're looking at the rows of blocks over here. Check this out, folks. Two similar ones of equal length, and then two smaller ones next to each of the longer ones. And I'll compare it to the Inca stonework found in Cusco. Then we're looking at what I speculate could be molded or shaped blocks. Check out this piece. There's a protrusion on the top as well, and a similar block over there. Also has a protrusion on the one side. And I'll compare it to the blocks that we find in Cusco, Peru. Also seem to be molded or shaped. Check out the curves on these blocks. And we're getting to depictions of triangles, three similar parts arranged in a perfect triangle on that object. And there again, very similar in size and shape. And on Earth we also find triangular depictions. We're looking at the one megalith in Pumapunku, Bolivia, and then the three objects or protrusions arranged in a triangle at the lost city of the Inca, Vilcabamba, Peru. And we're looking at rows of protrusions or knobs on that piece. Check this out, folks. Similar in size and shape, equal spacing between each, and it's in a row on top of that highly eroded block, and that is repeated on the object over here to the left. Check that out, folks. Equal spacing between those in a straight row. And that we also find on the huge megalith in Peru. Check that out. And also, I thought I'd throw this one in. This is in the Quarry in China. Check that out, folks. Then we're looking at larger objects arranged in rows. Look at the arrangement there. Equal spacing between those four. Here we've got 3 in a row on top of this highly eroded block. And again, I'll compare it to the alignment of those knobs on the huge block in Peru. Up next, the strange donut-shaped object. Check this out, guys. Seems to be hollowed out on the inside. There's another one. This seems to have something sticking out of the hollowed out part, out of the center. And I'll compare those to the Men-an-Tol in Cornwall. Also this donut-shaped rock. Very interesting. When I first saw this, I compared it to the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Take a closer look. It's got like a disc shape to it, with these two prongs coming out the front. But then I reconsidered after seeing the Baltic Sea anomaly, and I compare it to that anomaly. Check that out, folks. The disc shape with the prongs or long narrow parts sticking out the one side. To the bottom left, we've got a rather strange object as well. It's got this rounded part on the left, and then these strange rectangular parts to it there in the center, and then a rectangular part on the right. And I compare it to the rock ship of Nasuda in Japan. A rounded part, the 3 rectangular parts in the center, and then the straight back part. Over here to the bottom left, we have a pile of megalithic blocks, and to me it looks like a top-down view of a collapsed dolmen. The blocks, right angles, same width and size, and I compare it to one of the collapsed dolmen found in the Jordan Valley. For those of you that have been following my work over the past 5 years, you'll know that there's a lot more of these anomalies, very similar in size and shape and design, but for the sake of keeping this video short, I'm only presenting some of the most intriguing examples. So let's have a chat in the comments below. Let me know what you think of my hypothesis that we're looking at similar ancient ruins and artifacts that are found on Earth and Mars. Are we looking at an ancient lost history here? Are we connected to an ancient civilization that once lived and thrived on Mars? Take care, everybody. I'll see you in the next video very soon. Bye for now.